Secretary of State Clinton is meeting with Egyptian President Morsi in Cairo right now, just hours after the bombing of an Israeli passenger bus. Secretary Clinton issued this statement on the bombing. The United States strongly condemns this terrorist attack, and our thoughts and prayers and the people of Israel. Let me bring in Congressman Steve Israel, a Democrat from New York and chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
You and Representative Cole sent a letter to President Morsi asking him to refrain from giving Hamas cover to intensify its attacks by allowing Egyptian delegations to visit Gaza. Of course, Morsi has been a major player in these truce negotiations. Do you think he's sending a mixed message?
Well, he is sending a mixed message. I hope that President Morsi is able to play a constructive role. But when high-level delegations of Egyptians go into Gaza under the pretense of a ceasefire, and then terrorist groups violate that ceasefire, if Israel were to defend itself, and if one of the members of that delegation was tragically hurt in that attack, we do not want that to be used as a pretense to violate the Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty. And one other thing on this, Chris, look, there's a fundamental truth here. I was on the border of Gaza and Israel in August of 2005 when Israel unilaterally and without any preconditions left Gaza, actually went in and asked Jews living in Gaza to leave. And they said to the Palestinians, here is the land. Build something with it, reform your economy, modernize, strive for peace and economic development. And do you know what they got in return for leaving Gaza without any preconditions and doing it unilaterally? They got rocket attacks. The Palestinians used Gaza not to launch the modernization of their economy, but to launch rockets firing on Israeli schools. So there will be peace in Gaza and in the Middle East when the Palestinians make the calculation that there's more to be gained by teaching their children how to put things together than teaching them how to blow things up.
Let me ask you really quickly, NBC News reporting this morning that Iran may be indirectly helping supply weapons to Hamas. Is this going to have an impact on these delicate negotiations and the Mideast conflict as a whole?
Well, I think it sure will. Iran's fingerprints are all over this. The Fajr 5 missiles have a 47-mile range. One half of the population of Israel is in range and at risk as a result of this collection of missiles. And at the end of the day, we need to continue to have a very tough and smart approach towards Iran to stop their nuclear program and to stop them from spreading terrorism throughout the Middle East and the world.
You've also got a lot on your plate domestically. You were chosen to continue as chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, having, I think, fair to say, outperformed expectations in the elections. First Democratic caucus in history to have a majority of women and minorities. But you are still in the minority. So I'm wondering, Congressman, do you think that this election has really changed the game when you get into some of these contentious issues?
I do. I think this election was a mandate for problem solving and solutions. We recruited candidates throughout the country who weren't about left or right. They were about moving forward. They were about solving problems. And in this election, we started to roll back the Tea Party tide. The major Tea Party icons in Congress were defeated because their own constituents had rejected their rejectionism, had rejected their extremism. And so we continue to be ready, willing, and able to compromise, to find common ground, to solve problems with Republicans. And we're going to continue to recruit and run people in districts throughout this country who are interested primarily in moving this country forward and solving problems.
Well, one of those Tea Party favorites, Florida Representative Alan West, finally conceded to Patrick Murphy in what I think was one of the most probably high-profile congressional races in the country. Are you suggesting, though, that the Tea Party is not much of a factor anymore?
Well, we rolled back the Tea Party tide. Alan West, for example, ran proudly as a Tea Party icon. He said that the majority of Democrats in Congress were communists. That kind of extremism and that kind of just doesn't fit most districts in America. If you've got a fairly moderate congressional district that's interested in solutions, you reject that kind of extremism and that kind of rhetoric. And the more Republicans cling to that kind of Tea Party extremism, the less relevant they will be, the more likely it is that they will lose their seats, and we can get back to the business of moving America forward and solving problems, not creating more problems.
New York Congressman Steve Israel, good of you to take time on this day before Thanksgiving. Happy holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving.